I'm recording at a new place today. If you're worried about it looking like it's going to rain, it's because it is raining behind me. It's just not raining here yet. What if I told you I'm not worried about Arch Manning and spring ball? What if I told you that there's only one competition that I'm really fascinated with, because I think that one competition is going to probably make a dramatic impact on how our season works out for us this year. Before I get into that, I just want to say hook 'em. But the competition that I'm talking about is that quarterback competition. I've made a video before and I will say it again. Since 2009, Texas has not had a quarterback that played in the entire season. And because we have not had a quarterback that has made it through to play in the entire season, I have to be concerned with who our backup quarterback is going to be. A lot of people don't even know who our backup quarterback options are. So I'm making this video to educate you on what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. And for those of you that are new Texas fans that are coming on the bandwagon and cheering with us, I need to tell you a little bit about these backup quarterbacks, because these backup quarterbacks are no slouches when it comes to this Texas football team. It has now started to rain, but let me get into this video and see if it stops raining to see how I can make this work as I continue to move forward. First on the quarterback list, we have Trey Owens. Trey Owens, 6'5". I'll put up his information here so you can see it. You can see where he comes from. You can see he comes from great football pedigree, and you can see all the things about Trey Owens. He knows what's going on. He was there when Ewers was there. He was there when Arch was there. He played in the spring game last year. He got in a couple of games last year in 2024. If you had to guess who would be the backup is, everybody would probably say Trey Owens. It makes sense for Trey Owens to be the backup. He's been at the program the longest. He seems to have skill sets that are very closely matched to Arch. Trey Owens is great at football. He was great in high school. There's nothing telling me that he's not going to be great at Texas. The problem is when you have Quinn Ewers there and you have Arch Manning there, what do you want Trey Owens to do? However, he stayed with the program. He knows what he's getting himself into. And so if something happens and we had to turn the ball over to Trey Owens, I would feel pretty confident that Coach Sark knows Trey Owens, because a lot of this depends on how Coach Sark feels with you. Does Coach Sark know what plays work for you? Does Coach Sark know how to really get you going in a game? Does Coach Sark know how to push you? Those are the things that I'm very curious to see with Trey Owens. Now, I'm saying all of this. We all know I want Arch Manning to play every single freaking game that we have this year. I want Arch Manning to play every single game, and I want Arch Manning to be the first Texas quarterback since 2009 to break the streak. That is what I hope. However, I need to be real with myself, and I'm one of those football fans that I want to look at every angle, and I want to see every situation that we can be better than the other team. I want to look at all of our weaknesses. I want to talk about our weaknesses. I want to assess everything. So that is what I'm doing. I'm going to assess this situation. Hi, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that like button. Make sure that you're subscribed to my channel and turn on those notification bells. And if you're filling up to it, don't forget to leave me a comment in the comment section below. Next on the list is we have KJ Lacey. And if you know anything about Texas recruiting, you would know that Texas spent a lot of time recruiting KJ Lacey. Texas wanted KJ Lacey. KJ Lacey, I will put up his information here, is obviously not as big as Trey Owens, and he's obviously younger than Trey Owens. However, he's no slouch. The one thing I've heard about KJ Lacey is that he is a general. He loves football. He can come in and make a difference. His skill sets are not going to be the same as Trey Owens. He's not going to have the same amount of experience as Trey Owens, but I think he's going to challenge Trey Owens. At the very least, if KJ Lacey challenges Trey Owens and Trey Owens earns that backup starting job, I'm okay with that. But I'm very fascinated to see this backup competition. I'm very curious to see what they look like, and if we're going to have somebody backup Arch that plays very similar to Arch, if we're going to have somebody backup Arch that's more like a KJ Lacey, or if Coach Sark is not really going to name who the backup is going to be, and it's just going to kind of be those things that if worst case scenario happens, then we will see who the backup is going to be. So I'm calling this out here because I know all attention is on Arch Manning. I know we all want to know what Arch is going to do. We all want to see if Arch Manning can lead this team. We all want to see all the things. I get that. I understand that. That doesn't mean that we cannot look at the reality of situations. This is football. Things happen. And when things happen, you want to be prepared. When things happen, you want to know who your backup is. If the worst happens, or if Arch has a bad game, or whatever. I want to know who the next guy is because that matters to me. Texas has recruited very well. I've said it on a multitude of videos. I'm not worried about their ability to recruit, and I'm not worried about the next guy not being good. I expect him to be good. In a lot of ways, I actually expect him to be great. I don't know if that's fair, but that's what I expect. So this Texas backup quarterback matchup is something I'm going to keep my eyes on because I'm very fascinated to see what happens with this backup position because I'm interested to just see how it plays out. The other thing I'm going to mention here, I'm not going to spend as much time on this because there's so many receivers that I can talk about, and I don't want to not talk about a receiver because I don't think that that's fair. However, I want to see what Aaron Butler is going to be able to do, and I want to see what Parker Livingston is going to be able to do. Now that we are not having DeAndre Moore right now, I want to see who's going to step up. I want to see if those guys that have been in the program longer are going to be able to fend off some of these freshmen because Texas went very heavy with recruiting wide receivers, which, to be honest, I think all college programs recruit heavily receivers. Like, I got it. But my point is I want to see if the guys that have been in this program can fend off these freshmen coming in. I want to see what it looks like. I want to see how they're going to adjust through things. So when I'm looking at spring ball, I am focused on some of these matchups and I'm interested to see what happens. I don't know what Texas is going to do to tight end, so I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to trust Coach Sark to figure out tight end. But all these other situations, I'm very fascinated to see what happens. I'm probably going to mention a lot of, like I did last year with Colin Simmons and like I did with Ryan Wingo, at this time is going to be Michael Terry and is going to be Lance Jackson. I'm very fascinated to see how Michael Terry steps up, what he looks like, what position he plays, how he looks out there. And I'm very interested to see what Lance Jackson looks like. I just want to see these guys. I want to see how they develop. Now we've started, so I kind of want to see how they develop. I want to see how they adjust. I want to see how they learn. I want to see what they pick up on. I want to see if their names are going to start being mentioned, and I want to see what happens. So I'm very fascinated with a couple of things Texas has going on. We all know Texas is in the SEC. I could have started this off by being like, I'm worried about the offensive line and the defensive line. I'm always worried about the offensive line and defensive line. I don't need to say that. That's what is understood doesn't need to be explained, okay? I'm always worried about the offensive line. However, I'm going to assume that they're going to take care of themselves. I'm going to assume that they're going to have themselves figured out, okay? So if I assume that, then the next thing I'm going to be thinking about is this quarterback competition. Very interesting to see what happens with these quarterbacks. Very interesting to see what happens with the wide receivers. Who ends up, excelling during spring ball. Very fascinating, curious about that. And then the guys I'm probably going to harp on the most is going to be Michael Terry and Lance Jackson. I'm going to leave Alex January where he is because I'm going to expect him to do his job. So that just leaves the other guys, the freshmen. Because honestly, if you played sports on any level, you always know that somebody is always coming in and trying to take your spot. Somebody is always trying to come in and prove that they are better at your position that you have been playing. That is what this is all about. This is a battle. And I want to see if these Texas receivers are able to battle it out with the guys that have been there. Even if they don't win the battle, I want to see if they're going to put up a fight because that is going to show me the strength of this Texas program because like I've said before, competitive depth, competitive depth, competitive depth. That is my battle cry. So I'm very fascinated to see these couple of things. I don't know how it's going to turn out. And what if Texas hits this out of the park and everybody is fantastic? And what if everybody's worst fears come true and Texas is actually a phenomenal football team and Texas is better this year than they were last year? And what if Arch Manning comes in and he is amazing? What if Arch Manning is as advertised? What if this receiving core is as advertised? And what if this offensive line and defensive line step up and take care of business? Everyone's going to be very pissed off because no matter what people like to say, when Texas is winning and when Texas is back and when Texas is getting ratings, a lot of people get annoyed. That is not my problem, but that's just what it is. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments section below, and I will see you in my next video.